Hi, Year 10. Welcome back. Hope you've had a good weekend. Today, we are looking at equations or reviewing the equations. Now, we did a little bit of this on Thursday in class. We're going to do a little bit more this week. We're just going to be kind of going over the topic just to make sure that we're good at doing the equations, good at the graphing, etc. So today is all about equations. Now we're looking at the tricky ones today. So we're looking at equations that have pronumerals on both sides, okay? Equations with brackets in them, equations with one fraction, and equations with two fractions. Now these generally, in my opinion, get harder as we go down here. So from 1 to 4, we're getting harder and harder. We're going to go through an example of each of these. Today's work will be on MathSpace, and these are the questions from the MathSpace. Just remember, we want to be doing it, writing it down on pen and paper, okay? And then with each line of working, you can then, after you've written it, input it into MathSpace and check to see how you're going. So don't just try to type it out in MathSpace without doing the working. Remember, we want to practice thinking by writing on the page and looking at the page and working and manipulating that. It's very hard to do maths all in your head and then typing. Much better to write it down. Okay, so make sure you've got your book open or some kind of piece of paper next to you. Do the questions, pen and paper, and then input your working each step into MathSpace. And MathSpace will tell you after each step how you're going. Okay, so make sure you're doing that properly and showing you're working in MathSpace and on pen and paper. Okay, let's look at this first example here. We've got equation or pronumerals on both sides of the equations. Now, we talked about on Thursday, what we want to do is get all of the pronumerals that we're looking at on one side first, and then anything else make sure it's on the other side. Okay, so when we look at this equation here, first we notice there's an 5x on one side, and then there's x plus 8 on the other side. We're going to move the x on the right side over to the left by taking away x. So we're going to go 5x minus x equals 8. Okay, and then we're going to check, are all the pronumerals on the left side? Yes. Is there anything else can move to the right side? No. So then I can just go 4x equals 8. And then the last thing we need to do, the opposite of 4 times, is divide by 4. So we divide by 4 from both sides. Okay, you could show it like this if you wanted to. Okay, or you can just work it out. Divide by 4, x equals 2. Now in MathSpace, you won't be able to write these down. Okay, so just write that next line of working underneath once you've got it there. Okay, so move it all to the one side. Okay, then simplify to get x on its own, or whatever it is, the unknown. All right, now example 2 here, we have brackets. We actually have 2 pairs of brackets. Now in general, what we want to try and do is get rid of the things that are making the question more complicated. So the first step is going to be expand the brackets so that there will be no more brackets at the end. Okay, so expand the brackets or go fishing. Okay, 3 times 4x is 12x. 3 times minus 5 is minus 15, and then plus 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times 26 is 24 equals 49. Okay, so we've got rid of the brackets. Then we're going to think, what do I do next? Okay, you don't have to know how to finish the question. Just expand, then look at the question again and go, okay, well, I've got all these things kind of split apart. How about I collect my like terms? That sounds like a good idea. So 12x plus 8x is going to be 20x. Okay, minus 15 plus 24 is going to be plus 9 equals 49. Okay, and then you got to think, okay, what do I do now? Well, I've got x on one side. I need to get everything else to the other side. So it's going to be 20x equals 49 minus 9, which is just going to be 40. So it'll be 20x equals 40. And then last thing we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides by 20. So it's going to be x equals 2. Okay, we just divided both sides by 20. 40 divided by 20 is 2. Okay, so that's with brackets. Just expand, simplify, and then go from there. All right, now this time we have a fraction. This is an equation with just one fraction. Okay, we've got to get rid of that fraction first. We don't like the fraction, it makes it harder. Let's first get rid of that fraction. The way we're going to do that is we're going to multiply both sides by 5, okay, because the opposite of dividing by 5 is timesing by 5. So if I multiply both sides by 5, I need to just be careful that I'm multiplying the whole of the right side by 5. So the way that I do that is I make brackets. We've got to multiply the 4x minus 4x, and we've got to multiply the 22. Okay? When you're multiplying both sides, make sure you're multiplying every single term on both sides. Okay, so now I need to expand those brackets, just like we did before. You can see why this question is kind of just like expanding brackets 1, but with that extra step of getting rid of the fraction first. Okay, so this becomes 5 times minus 4x becomes minus 20x. 5 times 22 becomes 110. Now we're going to get the x's on the same side and everything else on the other side. We're going to plus 20x to both sides. We get 3x plus 20x. Okay, and we get 110, and we're going to plus 5 to both sides. Plus 5. So we've moved the x over to the left, the minus 5 over to the right, and they become the opposite sign when we did that. Okay, now let's simplify both sides. We get 23x equals 115. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to do is divide by 23. Now you can use a calculator, but you will find that when I divide by 23, I get 5. Okay, because 5 times 20 is 100, and then 5 times 3 is 15. So 115 divided by 23 is 5. Okay, last question here. We've got an equation with 2 fractions. Now, what we did in this question with 1 fraction is we multiplied by the denominator 5 to get rid of that fraction. But here we can't just simply multiply by 3 because that won't get rid of the second fraction. We can't just multiply by 5 because it won't get rid of the first fraction. So to get rid of both fractions at once in one fell swoop, I like to do something where I multiply everything by the lowest common multiple of the 2 denominators. Okay, lowest common multiple, or another way is we just multiply both of those numbers together to get 15, and we're going to multiply everything by 15. So it becomes 15x over 3 minus 15x over 5 equals 2 times 15 is 30. All we've done is we've just multiplied every single term by 15, and then now look what happens. 15x divided by 3 is just 5x. Easy. 15x divided by 5 is just 3x. Okay, make sure you keep that negative there, and then this stays as 30. And you can see, oh, this is an easy question now. I've got rid of my fractions. Okay, 5x minus 3x is 2x. Okay, and then divide both sides by 2, x equals 15. We've got x on its own. So with 2 fractions, you need to multiply by a common multiple so that you can get rid of the fractions both at once in the next step. Okay, just remember guys, the trick with equations is just knowing what can I do next. You don't need to know how to finish the question. Just think, what's the best next step? Do I get rid of the fractions? Do I get rid of the brackets, etc.? Okay, and once you've done that step, you can look at what you've written and think, what would I do next? Okay, do I need to get the x's on the one side? Do I need to collect like terms? Do I need to get the unknown on its own by dividing or multiplying? Okay, so guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Good luck with the math space. Do contact me if you need help, but I'll see you later.